welcome to Keeping It So Simple. This is A Course in Love, my very first interview in this series, and when I put it out there into my cyber tribes, Kimberly Davis was the first one to say, I'm in. And so welcome, Kimberly. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. And it's funny you said that because the minute I saw that invitation show up, I was like, I'm in. I'm here.
I love that. You know, it's really kind of fun having started this just like a couple of months ago. And
Mhm.
it's just now starting to get momentum, but it has been absolutely beautiful. Mostly the private messages that I've been getting, just to know that this is something that's stirring within the hearts and souls of a lot of people, and this interest of love. I'm
Mhm.
a firm believer that our existence is love, that we came from love,
Mhm.
and that we are love, and we are loved beyond measure. And to really let people understand that, I think, is going to open up a whole new world within themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's much similar to the way I look at things. It's like, how can I live love? How can I be love? And the flip side of that is how can I let myself really know how loved I am?
Mm-hmm.
And that can be just as hard to receive as it is to give.
Absolutely. Hard to claim that, isn't it?
It is, yeah. There's a lot of fear behind that sort of fear of loss, you know. I can remember having a conversation in the circle that I was in of women where my biggest fear was to let them love me back, because what if they took that love away? What if that love went away? What would that mean? And that was the beginning of my journey to really say, okay, what is this love thing? Um, and how can I live it and walk it and be with it and allow it to be with me?
Yeah. And that letting go, or letting it be released of us. I mean, it's something we want so much to hold on to, this love.
Mm-hmm.
But it really
Yeah.
is something, that old 60s thing, if you love something, let it go. And if it comes back, it's meant for you, or however that quote went. Really, it's an energy that just needs to flow in, and we absorb it and let it flourish within us, and then it moves out, and it has a pulse all its own. And when we can really tap into it, I think it begins to breathe and live and have its own being, separate, quite separate from us, even though we are all connected and it is all part of who we are. It has its own life form.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
it's wonderful. So I invited Kimberly to bring a quote, and I love her quote that she brought, and she also has her very own quote. So you want to share both of them with us?
Um, yes. Well, one is by Rumi, and I completely phased on bringing the quote with me.
Oh, I have it here. Do I need to,
Yes,
to hone in on it for you?
please do.
Okay, I do that a lot too, or the quote is so prominent in my brain, and then I'm like, could you say it? And I'm like,
I
no,
know.
I
It's
can't.
like I know the words, but the order in which they go, I'm not entirely.
I got it for you.
Okay.
No more holding back. Be reckless. Tell your love to everyone.
Yes.
That is so beautiful. Um, so before I share your quote on love, why don't you go into that one? What about that quote really sticks out to you?
It was the idea of no more holding back and being reckless. Because really, in our society, in my culture, in my community, it's not that effusive loving. You know, everybody kind of walks through this world, and they're kind of behind their little walls, their windows, their doors, and you can see that kind of connection is one that's kind of held back. It's held back, maybe to really get to know somebody better, maybe to find out there's a connection there. But that sort of just saying, I love you, even silently, is not something I think that people um, are accustomed to that sense of feeling love for the other person, for oneself, for one's world? What does that mean to practice love? And I love that be reckless. It just made me feel like, oh, I can do this. I can love. I can offer of this to everyone because love is love. It's true. It's pure. And it's really not reckless at all. But I love that kind of contradiction. You know, just go for it. Love. It's like, yeah, I can do that. Let's do that.
Absolutely. Do you think people are really reserved, and this is almost an uncomfortable topic for some people? I mean, either they really get it, this whole thing about love, and they get the idea of just go and love, simply love from the heart, and be reckless about it. And to me, when I saw the word reckless, I thought that could so be misunderstood in this realm of people who are not quite comfortable yet with love. It could be so misconstrued, but I'm with you on the idea that sometimes when we just go out there and just let it be, we might be the weirdos or the outsiders or the ones that feel foolish afterwards. But in all honesty, love is never meant to be played out as a fool. It never falls like truth, because love is a truth. It never falls on deaf ears. And even if the heart is hardened, when you share your love, that seed is there. Eventually, at some point, it makes its way down. Do you agree?
I absolutely do. And there's different ways, I think, to be love. And when I'm grounded in that space and I'm like, okay, I'm just really grounded in myself, my own connection to love. And then I go out into the world, and I love to go to the grocery store and be in that place where I consciously envision myself being love. And so I change. My posture changes, my expression changes. I start to see people, and they see me back, and sometimes it's this interesting spark of recognition. I see you, you see me. That doesn't happen. Not like that.
Not like that.
And that is just, and I think, deep love can be transmitted just in that moment of knowingness and connection.
That recognition. Absolutely. To recognize that we are fellow beings and that we have this connectedness of love, of that divine purpose and love. I often, when I've had those encounters at the grocery store too, and some of the eyes that I've looked into are ones that I've held for years and years and years. Just that we get it kind of thing. Absolutely. The last quote, tell me your love, tell your love to everyone. And you kind of just explained that, didn't you? That it just carrying love, allowing it to be emitted out from you. And even though we have our spiritual boundaries and spiritual protection, we are always open, I think, as intuitives and people who do carry divine love, to be receptive of that.
Yeah.
That's such a good thing.
And another practice I've recently started, it's been kind of really an interesting one, where when I go anywhere, I'm driving down the street where our college is and it's very busy, I look for something beautiful in every person I pass. And that's really wonderful too, because then it's not just love that's it's universal, but it's also specific to that person. Can I find something beautiful in each person? And it's really, it's possible, and it helps you to kind of transcend that sort of different. How are we alike? We're all beautiful, and when you see that, then the love just love is there too. It's the river that flows.
Oh, I like that. That is so sweet. I'm going to take that out, especially those days when I'm not like, I'm in the midst of, when I'm in my prosthetics or I'm in my wheelchair and I become the freak show sometimes. I mean, not everybody, but sometimes people look at me and just kind of want to hide, or they're so curious and they want to point and stare. And I immediately put up my defenses in a case like that, especially if I haven't left my home with that mindset. I hate that I ooze with so much humanness in this. I'm sharing divine love, but yet I'm admitting that I ooze with so much humanness. But I am going to put that into practice. now when I
Oh.
leave, especially in my prosthetics, I'm going to remember Kimberly Davis said, and I'm going to begin to look for that. I like that. Thank you so much.
You're
There's a
welcome.
piece of vulnerability that we have to take with ourselves as well, isn't there, when we step out in the world in love?
Absolutely. And I was so touched when you were talking about divine love, but losing humanness. I think that's what makes it so especially tender and, like you said, vulnerable. That we people in these skins that we're in at this moment can still recognize and be that spark. That's, amongst all our foibles and things, we still can be that and connect with that in any moment.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, share your quote, because I thought I was just so moved when you shared this with me, and I can so see you. I'll let our audience know that you and I have kind of worked on a collaboration together, but today was really our first day that we actually got to speak face to face in this manner.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
the collaboration that we worked on, our Fearless Oracle deck, really, and we mentioned this today in our discussion, has a lot of power in there. And it takes me not by surprise at all that the women that put this deck together are the first ones that jumped on board with this. I think there's just something about that. But when you, knowing the card that you created and
Mm-hmm.
the words that associated with it, I am not surprised by your very own quote. So share that with us.
It's a quote, and it's actually one of my rules for life. I have about 4 or 5 rules that, if something's going wrong, I say, okay, am I doing this and doing this, and I have to remember to do this. And this one is kind of a catch-all, but it really, really grounds me and helps me figure out what to do. It is, when in doubt, love. And what it means is, when I don't know what to do in a situation, I ask, what would love do? And when I do that, it sort of transcends, whatever anxiety or worries I might have in my own self at the moment. And what would love do? Love would be patient. Love would be compassionate. Love would raise a difficult question. Love would have an honest conversation. Love would stay quiet. What would be the most loving thing that I could do for myself and for whatever other person or persons are involved in that moment?
Wow. That's incredible. Do you want to share the other 3 rules you have?
Sure, I will. One is just say yes. And that's really to allow myself the opportunity, like this, to jump in and, yeah, I'll talk about love. This was, I don't know, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I was in a much different place in my life, and it was I was depressed, and I wasn't very enthusiastic, and so I decided I'm going to say yes to whatever opportunities fall into my lap. I'm going to say yes. Within a course of 2 days, I got front row tickets to go see a show, and then I ended up having my first art show at the local art museum because I said yes. Yes, I'll go to the show, even though it was Celtic Women, which I had never really heard of, but and it wasn't something that I would normally think of going to. I don't go to shows very often, but I said yes. And then I hung a show at the local art museum because she happened to come in and we got to talking. She said, "Do you want to have a show?" I said, "Sure," and it happened. Wow. So that's the first one. The next one is don't fight reality, which means whenever I'm in a situation and I'm resisting reality, it gets really hard. So I can do one of 2 things. I can sort of change my situation. Can I change my situation? Is it something that I can do? Or can I change my perspective on it? So it's don't fight, either surrender to it or make whatever change I can. And the third one is just to stay in the present moment. Am I in this moment? Am I rushing ahead to the future? Am I worrying about the past? Can I ground myself back in the present? And then when in doubt, love.
Those are perfect. And they're so simple. They're not easy, but they're simple, and I like the simplicity of how you put those together. I have some similar ones myself, and I like the simplicity of yours. And I think there must have been some magic dust or something 4 or 5 years ago to a lot of us that there was just all of a sudden we breathed it in or something, and our lives began to
Mm-hmm.
unfurl in a different way. Maybe because we all said yes. I'm not sure, but
Mm-hmm.
that is beautiful.
Oh.
So you are an artist, an
Mm-hmm.
intuitive artist, and your work is beautiful. Some of it's there. People can find you at riverstonestudio.com. I
Right.
encourage them to
Mm-hmm.
go there. Before we talk about something that just tickles me pink that you do, I want to ask you, do you think there's a connection to this divine love and intuitive art or intuitive living?
Absolutely.
And
Was there more questions?
no, that was it. That was it. If there was this connection, because I'm seeing a connection. And so I'm curious how you see that connection.
Absolutely. Oh, that's such a. Let me go back a couple of steps. I realized some time ago that my painting, my intuitive painting, a lot of my work is just color work and the way the color moves and blends and sits next to each other. I realized that what I was doing was really tapping into expressing how I experienced the energy of a situation. So I kind of experienced the world in flowing color and moving color. And so that's what I've been painting without even realizing it until somebody made a little comment and I was like, oh, that's what I'm doing. And so I had an experience where I was um, felt myself burned out from the inside out, where I was a completely clear conduit, where all the old stories and old wounds and everything was burned out, and there was just this flow of energy coming through the top of my head to the bottom of my feet, and just flowing, moving freely. And I think that was just kind of like the opening of my heart and the opening of my spirit, but I don't think I could have gotten there without the intuitive painting, without going through the process of engaging with this sort of, I don't know where it comes from, but allowing it to pass through me in terms of the creative art. And then being, okay, so I can allow these things to flow through me. Everything can flow.
Such as divine love.
Such as divine love, yeah. Did that make sense?
Oh, totally makes sense. Yes, absolutely. And your work is very vibrant in color. Very
Mm-hmm.
vibrant in color, and it does have movement as
Yeah.
well, and I love that. You're also in you're doing some you finished a book, did you not?
Finished writing a book, yes. In my other life, I own a quilting and knitting shop just outside our little town here, and we've been open for 11 years. And so that's part of my work is to help women find their creative spark, whether it's knitting a scarf or making a table runner or starting to get into their own design and things like that. One of the classes that I teach is free motion quilting, which is basically drawing with the sewing machine. You know, the machine isn't guiding, you're guiding the machine to do. And so the book that I've written is called Make Your Mark, a handbook for learning free motion quilting. And it's based on my 11 years experience teaching, but it also brings in a lot of what I've learned about creativity through my own practice. So it's not just, this is the technique, but this is how do you allow yourself to be a learner in a creative way? And how do you deal with the inner critic? And how do you learn to cherish the marks that you make, even if they might be a little wobbly or uncertain or, you know, less than what you would consider perfect. And so that book kind of combines, you know, the work that I do for myself and then the work that I've done at the shop for a decade.
Yeah, that's good because those little gremlins, those brothers gremlins seem to
Uh-oh.
come and haunt us all, don't they? And
They
as you newly engage in this creative practice, which is a healing practice, which sparks divine love, which opens up this vulnerability, which exposes the rawness of your heart, as you kind of explained what happened to you. Those little stinking brothers come out, those brothers gremlin, and they haunt us. And so perfect that you address those greasy little guys.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's a big thing that I stress in the classes that I teach at the shop and in my work with customers too. It's like, yeah, you know what? This inner critic stuff, these gremlins, they're normal. And when you can face them and say, okay, I'm going to go 2 inches outside of what my comfort zone is. And you make that experience, you're like, oh, okay, I didn't pass out or die, you become more skillful. And then you can continue to take bigger, I want to say risks, not really risks, but you know what I mean? Take another step and go further and be more expressive. And
You
then,
can be bold. It's a bold step. Yeah, it's like
this
saying,
is,
I'm in control of me, and those little brothers, you can go down to the coffee shop or the corner bar because right now this is my time. This is my
absolutely.
bold step. And
I'm glad,
go ahead.
I'm glad you said go down to the coffee shop because that's one of the things that, you know, the gremlins, I think they want to keep us safe, but they have a very constrained sense of who we are, and they have very perverse methods for keeping us safe.
Yep.
But so I'm not one, I really cringe inside where I hear people say, oh, kick that gremlin out, or, shove him in a box, or, and it just doesn't feel to me that that's not love. That's not love in action.
Right.
So if you can lovingly send your gremlin off to Starbucks and, get a Frappuccino.
Right. Tell them to get the venti and add extra whipped cream on it and take your time. I agree. They are good to have along with us. It's just the matter of deciding who is in control. And it comes down to this divine love when it's almost easier for us to share our love with others out there than embracing ourselves, our higher self, and our child, our inner child. And so when we can do that, then we can begin to embrace those brothers gremlin and just say, hey, I appreciate you right now, but I need this time to be vulnerable. I need this moment to be raw. And you're absolutely right. We need to embrace them as love. And yeah, I don't like to put them in a box either because they're going to be knocking on the top of that box coming out at me. So
Yeah.
So you're right. If they go have a Frappuccino and enjoy themselves, they'll come back much happier. Oh, that's great. So when I got on Kimberly's website, Riverstone Studios, she has a program called Spelunking. And that just tickled me inside so wonderfully. And she's going to explain it to you, but when she explained it, I was like, what a friendly word to use. So Kimberly, explain your program, Spelunking.
Creative heart spelunking is what I call it, but it's basically, I love that you think it's very friendly because it's kind of amusing to me because I'm actually claustrophobic. So the idea of actually going spelunking and I don't even like going in the little caverns that they have off the highway. It's like that's hard for me. I'll do it, but it's hard. But there is something about that sort of going deep and seeing, what's beneath the layers. We have our surface where we live, and then there's some stuff that we're used to, but then there's deeper stuff. And that's where the intuition comes into play. So creative heart spelunking is work that I do with people on a one-on-one basis, where we sit together and my inner student will paint, and I actually sit and I read her energy intuitively as she works and kind of watch what's going on, feel, is she getting stuck, watching for gremlins and that kind of thing. And it's kind of a collaborative process, I'd say. She can ask questions and I can answer, but the idea is to allow intuitive painting, but with a guide,
Mm-hmm.
so that I can say, oh, okay, and there's a lot of symbolism that happens, as it does in intuitive painting work, where things happen and you're like, oh. But it's helpful to have someone else who will look at it, because I think it's hard for us to look at our own work and really see all the layers,
Yeah.
really, really see the depths of the truth, because we're so involved in it. So that's what I do, is I help people see, the deeper things. And it's a really miraculous process, I'd say, in terms of what is uncovered and how it can be done in a way that may get at things that are tender, but it does feel a little bit safer. It's not, it's not completely raw, but it's those little steps. Okay, what's next?
Yeah, to take somebody's hand and going into the cave or the crevices of our hearts, because there's a lot of little mysterious places that we kind of leave sealed, I think, in our
Yeah.
hearts. And to have somebody kind of take our hand and to walk through there as we explore those areas. The self discovery is remarkable in and of itself. But I could just so see having somebody in my presence, and just so that those that listen, they know that they can do this via Skype, correct?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to
Yeah.
be in your studio to
No,
do this.
no.
They have you right there via
Mm-hmm.
Skype too, as they go through this process. But to have that safety, and I can only imagine its basis is on love. When you take that person's hand,
Mm-hmm.
virtually or right there in the studio, that is just pure love for them to explore their hearts. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Well, that is
I had
beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It's very fulfilling work. It's very um, there's something about it that's very beautiful.
Yeah. So this connection between intuitive art, divine love,
Mm-hmm.
and this desire to bring that connection to others, I think
Mm-hmm.
is a common thread among many of us, and I am so excited to bring others into the fold. And it's not ever, it's like a piece of art, isn't it? It's never completely finished. It may call
Yeah.
you back again and say,
Mm-hmm.
it's time to add something else, or let's go a little bit deeper. Let's spelunk again
Yeah,
together, right? And love is the very same way.
it is. Yeah, it is. And it's sort of a cycle that feeds on itself too. I'm actually embarking on a series of paintings about love.
Hmm.
Interestingly, um, I've sort of realized that that is part of my calling, and so I'm embarking on a series of paintings. How does it feel to love? How does it feel to be loved? What what does that look like? And that really is part. So when I say it's part of the process, that intuitive painting helps me to bring out that emotion and the energy of that experience and process it in a different way. And I think that kind of deepens then my understanding of what it is to be love and walk the world holding that.
That intention and that
Absolutely.
energy. For
Mm-hmm.
anyone who may be listening that does isn't familiar with intuitive painting, um, oftentimes, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but in your case, when you're going to do this series, there's an intention with
Mm-hmm.
love that's set. Probably not a vision in your head yet, but then an intention set as you face that canvas, and then you've got your palette of colors and your water and your brush, and then you just
Mm-hmm.
cut loose and let it become the conduit, as you said, that
Yeah.
vessel to let
Mm-hmm.
it go. It's often it comes through us, but it kind of skips the brain, doesn't it? It goes from hand to heart.
It does. That's one of the things that I love about intuitive painting, is that it allows me to get wordless. And that's a very wonderful place to be.
Isn't it lovely?
Yes.
Just pure and raw. Kimberly, I have so enjoyed this gathering with you and sharing, and I look so forward to, would you come back when you have your series? together and
Love
share it?
to. Yeah, I would absolutely love to.
We'll stay in contact with that.
Yeah.
So, perfect.
Thank you so much for having me. I very
Thank
much
you.
enjoyed this. This was a topic that was, yeah, there was just no doubt. Because when in doubt, love. But there was no doubt. So
Because it was already love. Thank you for saying yes. I appreciate you so much.
you
Take
too.
care.
Too.